Welcome back to Rick's Scale Model Fix and part 3 of our Airfix 1/72 scale Hunting Percival Jet Provost T3 build. At the end of part 2 you'd have seen me attach the canopy, masking those up and attaching the canopy to the model. The next job on the list was to paint the undercarriage parts and get those attached so that we could stand the model on its legs. And then what we've done is, just prior to getting ready for decaling, we've done the navigation lights in clear red and clear green. To do that we simply painted the area of the tips of the tanks with alclad duraluminium, allowed that to dry, and then dipped it into a bubble of Tamiya clear red for the port side and Tamiya clear green for the starboard side. So that leaves us at the position now where we're starting to think about getting the model's decals on. Airfix includes some rather nice decal options in their kit. Scheme A in this instance is an aircraft from No. 2 Flying Training School, Royal Air Force Gaydon, Warwickshire, England, 1967, and this is in overall light aircraft grey with day glow panels. So I've actually built that model and it looks really nice when it's finished. Second option in the kit, Scheme B, is No. 1 Flying Training School, Royal Air Force Linton-on-Ouse, North Yorkshire, England, 1984, in light aircraft grey, signal red and white. So there's plenty of nice options there to choose from in the kit. You're going to have some nice masking to do that one though, I must admit, but it's on the list. We will cover it at some point. However, as we've discussed previously in the video, for this build we're going to use extra decal sheet 72-250. This is available from Hannants. And we're going to be doing a camouflaged one from 79 Squadron Tactical Weapons Unit based in RAF Brodie, Pembrokeshire, Wales, UK, 1984. The extra decal sheet is well printed, it's got a number of options on there, some of them quite colourful as you can see. The downside to the extra decal sheet is it doesn't contain any aircraft stenciling whatsoever, so you're going to be relying on the Airfix decals for these. Fortunately the Airfix ones are printed by Cartograph, so I can't see any problems putting those on your model. So you join me back at the bench in the final throes of putting the last decal on the upper surface of our JP. Just making sure everything's lined up, and then we'll just roll that with a cotton bud. I'll just get a new one. Hopefully it won't move. Add a little bit, as they always do, and then we'll add some decal setting solution just to all these that we've just worked on towards the rear of the airframe, and these that we did in the earlier speeded up section of the vid. And we're just making sure now that everything does settle down, ready for an application of varnish. And the reason we're putting a varnish on is we're going to put a wash onto the model in the next stage, and the last thing we want is any of the wash creeping under the clear carrier film of the decal, as we'll never get it out and it'll look a bit unprofessional and messy. So final last check just before we put it to one side to dry. So we've just got the number to put on the nose of the airframe, but it's a bit of a mishmash. It's not entirely correct because there was no stencil data provided with the extra decal sheet, so I had to go with what was in the kit. But Airfix do this version, this decal option, in one of their packages of this kit, so it might be better to purchase that if you're thinking of doing a camouflage one. So decaling is now complete on our JP, and it's looking the part. Like I mentioned previously, I've sealed the decals in to prevent the wash creeping under the carrier film, and I've used good old Johnson's clear floor polish for this. So we're going to apply a wash to the surface to enhance the panel line detail, and for this we're going to use Flory Models Dark Dirt Wash. So we're just waking the wash up, we're giving it a really good shake to get all the clay particles mixed, and we're just going to drop some into this little metal dish. And we're just going to add a few drops of water, just because I don't want it too dark on the undersurfaces of the model. So there's no magic recipe with this, it is just literally daub it on. To all the panel lines and recesses. Just making sure we get a nice consistent application, otherwise it'll vary the colours of the wash as it goes around the airframe. Nice and easy, no magic application methods, you just paint it all on. The good thing with this is it's water based, so if it's not to your liking at the end you can simply wash it off. It is best to apply this to at least a satin finish. If you apply it to a matte finish it makes the pigment harder to remove, but there are circumstances where that's beneficial if you're weathering, etc. So we're just going to set that aside to dry, and then we'll repeat the process on the undersurface. So the wash is now dry. I've done the undersurface, yes, very quickly there, still just drying off, and then we'll do the upper surface. So the wash is really easy to remove, so you just need a cotton bud or a piece of kitchen roll, bit of water, dry the excess off, and then just gently rub to remove the wash, and that just leaves it trapped in the panel line detail. and then you can dry off. Just be careful going over your decals, you don't want to be scrubbing them off. And it's as easy as that. So it's just highlighted those panel lines a little bit more than without the wash, and it just gives that little bit of added interest, and also shows off one of the attributes of the kit, which is the quite nice surface detail. Any stubborn or hard to reach areas such as the wing root, just get in there with the edge of your cotton bud and just give it a little wipe, and they're all coming off. And then we're just going to do around the nose. Just gently rub in. If you haven't sealed your decals in, this could be a bit of a hair raising experience, as you could actually rub your markings off. We've got a bit of a build up there in that wing root. We're just going to tease the edge of the mud out and just get in there. If all else fails, you can get in there with a paintbrush, just like this. So just around the edge of that intake there, just get in and work the wash out. The bit heavy build up of the wash, so it just looks a bit naff, to be honest. So there we go, we are ready for our final varnish coat. So just while that bit of wash that I repaired is drying, I'll just tidy the workbench. So I've just quickly masked the cockpit, and it's sort of inside as well. We don't want to, go on camera, you're going to focus. We don't want any overspray going in there. Now we're just going to work this varnish over. I always start with the underside, and then if there's any issues with it, we've not ruined the top surface of the model. Just giving it a moment just to dry off, just so we can get the true reflectivity, if you like, to see if it is a satiny finish rather than a true matte. And then onto the upper surface, and we're just being mindful that we're not going to spray directly into the cockpit. Making sure we get the wheels. You can probably see the difference now as it's drying. It should be a satiny finish. Just do the rear end. So that's the varnish coat on. It's gone satiny flat, still catches the light a little bit, and we're just going to leave that dry. And I've just done the seats as well, so just to tone the Haddad seat belts down a little bit, and we're going to add them to the model once we've removed that masking, and just cleaning the airbrush out. So we're just going to remove this masking from the cockpits and the cockpit glass. Hopefully we didn't get any overspray in that. So with the masking removed, we're going to add these seats to the cockpit tub. I'm just going to use a bit of super glue, so just down into the bottom of the cockpit, and we'll just put them in by hand. Just slide them down that mini eject rail, just making sure that they're straight and true. A little bit of help. There we go. There's the seats in. So we just added the head ejection seat handles to the head box and the seats, and we're pretty much done. We've just got a little bit of touch up to do there where the super glue is a bit shiny. So it will catch the viewer's eye. So we're just going to run some paint in there. So we've got the last few bits and pieces. So we've got the underwing pitot tube, which had been pre-painted. So once we've worked out that it fits, punched a hole in that decal, tiniest bit of super glue, making sure it all lines up. And we've got a couple of aerials to go. We've got one on the belly and one on the spine. Making sure the mating surface is flat and free of paint. Bit of super glue. And into position on the underside. And the same with the one on top. So just holding it gently in the tweezers, just making sure that the mating surface is free of paint and it's flat. Tiniest bit of super glue and it's in place. If you've got any shiny super glue left once the glue's dried, you can just put a touch of matte varnish around it. We're just going to clean the inside of the sliding part of the canopy. And we'll just let that PVA now dry. It's actually stuck in place now. So the last thing to do is, obviously we've applied a sort of satiny flat coat and we've lost the shine of our wingtip lights, so we're just going to replace that all we're going to do is just use a bit of painted on gloss varnish. In this case, Johnson's Clear again. So with everything now dry, that concludes our Airfix 1/72 scale Jet Provost T3 build. This is a lovely little kit that's often overlooked. It really is quite easy to put together, so can be highly recommended to anybody who's looking at starting out in the hobby, someone who's returning from a period of absence, or even just as a quick project between larger builds. With the addition of the aftermarket decals and the head-hard cockpit, you can really bring this little kit to life and do it some justice. So it's off to the photo booth now for the final reveal and studio photos, so I hope you enjoy looking at those. So until next time everybody, please look after yourselves, stay well and take care.